All right, I want to talk a little bit about the moves. Who is up and who is down at nooffseason.com sports card investment report. So because we have our baseball expert who is the co-host of the flagship show with me, let's talk about the baseball rankings. Yeah. So here we go. I'm going to add the baseball card rankings to the stream. There were some guys that we added for a couple of different reasons to the report the last couple weeks, mainly due to your last couple episodes of the baseball card strategy show. We listened to what you were saying, and then we added them to the back end of the rankings. So I want you to talk to us about some of these guys: Gunnar Henderson, Khalil Watson. We talked about Max Muncy. You mentioned Johandra Pinongo, which is just a fun name to say. Zach Bean, Blaze Jordan, and Robert Hassel, who's actually from Thompson Station, Tennessee, which is where I lived basically, and still have my U.S. mailing address. That's where my in-laws live.
That's cool.
So Robert Hassel from Independence High School, which is right down the street from us in Tennessee. Talk to me about these guys first, and then I want to ask you a little bit more specifically to help sort of re-rank the baseball card rankings just quickly. Because it's very veteran heavy, and what I want to try to do with it, and you and I can work on this offline, obviously, and then get back to everybody, is I want to make this a little bit more prospect focused moving forward. So it's very veteran heavy because that's kind of the theme of the investment report. But I do want to kind of weigh in the prospect.
Dude, there are some dogs on this list. Let's go.
Yeah. So anyway, what are your thoughts related to kind of some of the new guys that we've added to the report and why they're important for investors to consider?
Well, first off, I'm going to start with Khalil Watson. I think anyone investing in Khalil Watson needs to have an asterisk next to their investment. It is a scary investment at this point. There is a high element of risk in this guy. And I think because he's deep in the farm system. He's in the Marlins farm system, which has a history of not developing players super well. He is an astronomically high market right now because he was the guy out of the Bowman 22, the flagship product. But if you've followed Khalil Watson's story at all, he has really struggled with discipline and with the team. He's twice now been non-rostered in his minor league system because of his actions on and off the field. He is a guy who's not matured. Let's just put it that way. So for instance, he checked swing the other day, and this is a super baseball-y thing that a lot of people probably want to understand. He checked his swing, and the umpire called the check swing, or actually so he's left-handed. You can see in this picture here. He checks swings. The umpire points to the first base side. I don't know if that's because in this particular minor league game they didn't have 4 umpires. I don't know exactly how all that works. Although I'm a baseball expert, I'm not at the single A fields all the time. So he points over to the first base line, which is weird, first off, because in a check swing, you would point to third base because the third baseman would have the best angle on it. First baseman calls him a strike. Khalil gets really upset about that. You can see him wave at the umpire, make some sort of motion. You can see he's not happy about it, which fair enough. I'll give him that. But also, you're in single A. You have a reputation already. You probably should just buckle down here. Next pitch, he swings out of his shoes on a buckling. I'm pretty sure it's a buckling curveball. Swings out of his shoes, strikes out. As he's walking back to he's walking back to his dugout, he picks his bat up and acts like he's shooting the umpire.
Ouch.
Marlins did not take kindly to that, and I believe he hasn't played since. So all I'm saying is Khalil Watson is a guy who doesn't have a whole lot of discipline and has been in a farm system and already been in trouble several times. Is he talented? Absolutely. He's insanely talented. I'm just not sure. I'm not willing to put my dollars on Khalil Watson right now because of his off the field antics. I feel like he has the ability to actually not even make it to the major leagues. And that's a shame because of how good he is at the plate. And I feel like he also will probably get traded. I feel like the Marlins are going to use his high profile prospect nature and just ship him off to somebody else and get a different. Like, I think right now, if Brian Reynolds from the Pirates was available for straight up for Khalil Watson, I feel like Miami would do it in a heartbeat. One, they're struggling with the outfield. And two, I think they want to get out from underneath this guy already.
Wow. Yeah.
So that's where I'm going to start with this. Johandra Pinongo, really high on him. I think he's a unique case. He's in a Cubs system that has a lot of guys that are around the same helium level as him. He's playing super good. I would still put him in a flyer situation, but he is a good prospect to have. He's a cheap prospect to have right now. You can get him for a lot cheaper than Khalil Watson, and I think he's worth more. I think he's a more suitable investment right now, especially if you're looking at risk versus reward. I think Pinongo is going to be in the major leagues fairly quickly, especially like Khalil has definitely a longer way to go. I don't want to compare the two anymore. Actually, I've already compared them twice, but I do like Pinongo. If you'll go back to the rankings real quick. Max Muncy, we talked about him. Zach Veen, I like his bat. Robert Hassel, we'll go ahead and talk to him. Love Robert Hassel. Big fan. Definitely a big fan of Robert Hassel. He's a guy that is super unique. The fact that he's from a small town in Tennessee makes it even funnier because this dude is so unique. He's a guy that's going to be brandable. And I feel he's probably another guy that's probably going to get traded at some point. But this is a guy that's so fun to watch. He's going to be a guy that people love because he's got that. I think I said this a while ago, but you know that Joe Burrow swagger, that Joe Burr swag that he just like runs around with. Robert Hassel has that same sort of vibe. He's a guy that's like, he's always like flashy like he loves taking pictures on Instagram. Like he's a guy that's going to be able to be marketed well. And he's a guy that's worth marketing. I think he's a guy that people are going to love in the major leagues. Initially, I wasn't high on him, but over the past 6 months, I've been impressed. And my friend Aram, who God knows everything about prospects, is super, super, super high on Robert Hassel. I think this guy is going to be a bona fide major leaguer and definitely a guy that is going to be higher on our rebrand of this list than he is right now.
Sweet. Yeah, he definitely stuck out to me when I was putting this together based on your baseball card strategy show. All right, good stuff. Well, let's talk a little bit later, you and I, about kind of re-ranking some of these baseball card rankings so that you and the audience can come back to nooffseason.com. Everything's up to date right now, but with the new, I think MLB Pipeline 100 just coming out, it kind of started me thinking, all right, we're at a point in baseball season right now, the midway point, where some plays are being made and some things are going to be a little bit outdated sooner rather than later. So we're going to very quickly get into the part of the baseball season where I think prospecting, deep diving on prospecting is going to make a lot more sense and be more relevant for the next 6 to 12 months as we sort of anticipate. I want to start anticipating who are the next guys, who are the next O'Neal Cruzes of the world to pay attention to that are at a lower price point, not necessarily of his physical stature and stuff, but just guys that are at a lower price point that should come up over the next 6 to 12 months.
Yeah. So I think when we talk about the top end of these lists, I always am thinking, okay, what is the actual, like, what is our meta that we're going with? What is our ethics that we're going with in terms of the top end of this list? Is it the guy that's probably going to have the most plus money in the next 6 months? Is it the guy that's the safest investment? Is it the guy that is worth the most money right now? Like there's a bunch of ways you can be like, this guy's number one. Like for instance, with the MLB's top prospect list, they're going to put the guy number one that has the ability to be the most marketed player, I think. Maybe not always the most impactful to his team. Now there's other sites that rank their prospects differently. And I think when you look at a ranking system, you got to know, okay, what is the criteria? You've got to get so granular with the criteria because it is splitting hairs at the top end of this list. So for instance, if you're looking at the absolute safety of an investment, I think personally right now, Vladdy is way more safer of an investment than Mike Trout. I'm seeing some things in Mike Trout that I'm actually kind of a little bit worried about. His contact inside the zone has never been lower than it is right now. Interestingly enough, though, he's still second in WAR in all of outfielders behind Aaron Judge. So is he still fantastic at baseball? Absolutely. But as your dollar cost average and whatever you want to do, that we've got to get so granular with that at the top end because you're comparing Vladimir Guerrero Jr. absolute great versus Mike Trout, maybe the best of all time. So I don't know.
Yeah, that's a good example. And I think like wanting to stay, if we're going with, because other sports are easier for me to rank because like, I'll give an example in a second, but with baseball, if we're going with the veteran market over the prospect market, then the rankings would reflect, in theory, a bunch of veterans, when in reality, the way to potentially make more money would be to prospect. And with our baseball rankings, like I feel good about them right now, but I just want to make them better in the regard that I want them to accurately reflect, like if we're going to, I don't just want to sprinkle prospects in. I want to rank them based on who over the next 6 to 12 months gives the highest upside for profit margin, regardless of whether they're a prospect or a veteran. And I feel like right now it's sort of like veteran heavy with prospects sprinkled in because we have to talk about prospects. Now, if you're someone who doesn't really care about where they're ranked and you're more into the profile, I don't think it really matters because if you upgrade to the Sports Card Investment Report premium version and you just want to read about a player and your value is like, let me see what they're talking about with this entire player, I'm going to upgrade, then you get the value regardless because we're adding the profiles of the prospects in there. But if you're someone who's coming to the site for the first time and you're like, well, I want to understand like why they have these guys ranked a certain way. I think that's an area of improvement. So just wanted to talk about that quickly on the show. And then like from a basketball perspective, just give a quick update. The premium subscribers will get more of an in-depth report monthly on this, which is coming soon. But on the basketball card rankings, I did move Anthony Edwards up to number 1. Why did I do that? Well, again,
his team's going to be wildly media heavy.
Dude, you got Rudy Gobert basically for draft picks and a bag of chips. You got you locked in
trade.
Yeah, you locked in Cat for the super max, which I think does a lot for a guy like that's confidence. I think there's in this day and age, if you follow the NBA, you hear the trend is kind of like in these younger superstars, they want to be locked in. They want to be shown this respect from their team. And then when that happens, I think you get potentially a better version of that player is what I'm hearing from league circles. So I think that they made that move with Cat, and that's why that makes sense to me. So now you've got Ant-Man in the center of these other two guys, in a position to potentially be next year's Memphis Grizzlies. I see Anthony Edwards far outperforming a guy like Ja Morant. I see as a result of that, him being the number 1 basketball card to invest in. And if you want to know more, you got to upgrade to no offseason. We will talk about it on the show, which cards to buy. But I just think in general, Anthony Edwards is the number 1 basketball player now, more than anybody else. Trae Young moved up. Devin Booker moved up. Zion Williamson moved up. Cade Cunningham moved up. As a result of that, some guys had to move down. Tyrese Maxey moved down a little bit. Kawhi Leonard moved up. This is another one I want to talk about. I think it's Kawhi's time in the hobby. This next year could be Kawhi's year where, based on on-court performance and Clippers making a run in the Western Conference, Kawhi, Paul George, and now John Wall, believe it or not, is relevant again. I'm not going so far as to say he's relevant in the sports card market, but his acquisition by the Clippers does help Kawhi, I believe. Kawhi coming back from that injury. Tyronn Lue is one of the most underrated coaches in all of professional sports. And I think you could see the Clippers really, really make a run. I think you could see sort of a quick changing of the guard in 2022-23 in the Western Conference. I think you could all of a sudden see Minnesota, LA Clippers, and the New Orleans Pelicans be potentially towards the top of that conference. And so as a result, I think Kawhi Leonard's cards would.
You think Phoenix is toast?
I don't know that Phoenix is toast. I think they're competitive, and I like Devin Booker, but I do think that it's going to be harder and harder for them to continue to really be the team out there. I don't know. I've been checked out the last couple of days, so I don't really know exactly what's happening with the DeAndre Ayton situation. I don't really know exactly what's happening with the Kevin Durant situation. I do know if they try to get Kevin Durant, I think that could be detrimental to their actual ability to win games.
Yeah.
So I really
horrible.
A little concerned. I'm not concerned about Phoenix, but I just don't see them as kind of the runaway favorite anymore. Yeah, we talked about Giddey. Giddey moved up quite a bit. I did move Damian Lillard up. I think that makes sense. Cat moved up a little bit. Those are the big ones. Miles Bridges moved down. He had a bad felony arrest for domestic violence, which just breaks my heart for a lot of reasons. So Miles Bridges unfortunately moved down, kind of really gave away an opportunity there with some off the court bad decisions, bad situation. And then my other Sparty, Jaron Jackson Jr., has a foot injury, so he's a little bit less relevant now, and I think that hurts the Grizzlies more than it actually hurts Jaron Jackson's card value. I guess the last guy I want to talk about is Jaylen Brunson. I didn't even move him, and I didn't really move Luka either. I don't know. See, I think Jaylen Brunson is pretty replaceable. Paul Fisher made a comment a couple weeks ago about Jaylen Brunson going to the Knicks and that hurting Luka. I don't think it does. I really don't. I think it. The only thing it hurts, I think he's replaceable by Spencer Dinwiddie and Tim Hardaway Jr. First of all.
Yeah, the fact that they're getting Tim Hardaway back is better than Jaylen Brunson coming back.
I think for winning now and for what they're trying to do with Luka's card value, I just don't think Jaylen Brunson going to the Knicks really does anything. And I don't think Jaylen Brunson going to the Knicks should really help Jaylen Brunson's card value either. So I just kind of kept him where he was.
I don't understand why the Knicks made that. I mean, it does not move the Knicks needle to bring in it was no secret that they were bringing him in.
Yeah.
And they were so jazzed about it. And I'm like, you guys are bringing in a B+ celebrity, a B+ celebrity, a B+ star to carry your team. I mean, maybe
I think they got to make more moves. I agree. I think it was a good basketball move, but I think in order to compete, they got to make more moves than just acquiring Jaylen Brunson.
Yeah.
So I agree with you. Now on the football side, I did make some moves in the investment report, mainly because I think it's football card buying season right now. And Andy Kaysen's been doing such a good job getting me pumped about football cards right now.
Paul, just entertain me for a second. Where is the first non-quarterback in the list?
I think it's going to be Justin Jefferson as I scroll down here. Yeah, he's number 16. I moved him up above Aaron Rodgers. I think there's a lot of value in Justin Jefferson. I think
Zach Wilson's value is skyrocketing right now, by the way.
Yeah.
I don't know if you've read about that today.
I have not read about that today. What's up with Zach?
It's weird. All right. It's weird. But Jets fans are all about him right now because they found out that he was having relations with his mother's best friend. And he has been going cougar hunting this offseason. And the Jets fan base went insane with it today. He is a national hero right now, apparently, on Twitter. People are going insane with it. And they're comparing him to the way that I wasn't around for this. But apparently today they are comparing him to oh God, he just left my head. Naismith or Namath. They're comparing him to Namath because Namath was a big womanizer apparently, and that's what made him like such a good Jets quarterback or something. Like it made him Mr. Jets or something, like because everybody wanted to, like all the guys wanted to be him and the girls wanted to smash him, so but Zach Wilson is now getting compared to Naismith in Jets land, and his media presence is going through the roof right now, which I already thought he was a good buy this offseason because he was so bad and he doesn't really have any room to go down. I mean, I guess he does have room to go down. Look at AKA Baker Mayfield / Sam Darnold. But I don't know. I'm kind of in on the Zach Wilson story right now. So not because of the cougar hunting thing. I don't care about that. But I think he has a decent chance to be a good quarterback.
Yeah, that's hilarious. Yeah, I don't know about.
God, I wish Andy was on the show right now. I want his take on that.
Yeah, that'd be funny to get Andy's take on that. RPO chimed in and said it's a wild story. I agree. I mean, it's funny, I guess, what can move the needle from time to time. But I do.
It's funny how different franchises move the needle for different things.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I mean, another guy that Andy really likes that I really like is Travis Etienne. He's another position player. We both think he could break out in Jacksonville, and he's super low right now. So check out the football card rankings at nooffseason.com. Let me know what you think in the comments on the show. I think Jacoby Brissett moved into the top 45 because I see him as he could potentially be a quick flippable guy. And his card,
wild card Jacoby. That's what I'm gonna call him, dude.
His big cards are super cheap, and you don't see that very often. Quarterback.
And he has the position to be a playoff position quarterback.
Yeah, I mean, he's the knock against him is like he's had these opportunities before, and he's always been pretty underwhelming. So it's not like
has he though?
I think he
was pretty underwhelming in Miami. I'll give you that.
I mean, he's been in New England. He was okay, right? I mean, maybe better than expected.
I think he was better than okay in Indy.
You think he was? I mean, maybe. I don't know.
That team was winning some games, dude.
But okay, so what you're saying is playing into actually my overall point on Jacoby, which is like he should actually be Cleveland's starter this year.
Yeah.
And so if you want to go now would be the time to buy Jacoby Brissett. Yeah. Don't wait until he's named the starter, because then that's going to be the 50% spike in value. I think there could easily be buy him now. And then I think that there should be a 50% spike in value. When it's official that Deshaun Watson is suspended for the year, and then Brissett is named the starter and Baker Mayfield's gone. And so it's clear path to Jacoby Brissett being the starter. I don't know that I would necessarily then wait to see if the Browns make the playoffs. What I would probably do is as soon as he's named the starter, I would sell his cards.
Yeah.
And see what he can do for him. But I think that's the play.
What about the weird scenario? There's some media attention coming out this week that Deshaun Watson actually might not get suspended at all because there is no criminal charges that can be proved. And so there's some things of saying I forget who it actually rests on, but there's a lady, and that it pretty much is the determiner. I don't know this much about the situation, but this article I was reading was saying that she said that why would we punish somebody that hasn't been criminally charged?
Yeah, I think that's kind of the precedent in the NFL. Following fantasy football for a long time, I remember several cases where they didn't, Goodell didn't suspend a guy because of that reason. So I think that's a possibility, and it could be why this has dragged out so long and there hasn't been an official word yet. I think it's more likely than not that he will get suspended or disciplined in some way. I think that Deshaun's in our top 40 football card rankings because I think he has to be. The reason why he's there is because his upside is ridiculous. When he does get back on the field, he should be a stud. I don't know that I would invest in Deshaun heavily just because these track records tend to actually play out in the long term when there's these types of things like the Khalil Watson example, right? Like these types of character issues tend to continue to play themselves out. So if I had to guess, this won't necessarily be the last we hear of Deshaun Watson having incidents. I mean, I hope that it is for everyone's sake, but Jacoby Brissett is an interesting, like super, super cheap flyer play that I wanted to throw out there on the show. Even if Deshaun Watson does start the season, you could see Jacoby Brissett's cards go down even more potentially. And then I just don't know that Deshaun Watson finishes the season. So if you still want to hang in there with the
there's so much variety that could happen. He could literally be suspended for a year, or he could not be suspended at all. You're just like, what is going on?
And you probably remembered everybody in fantasy holding on to Josh Gordon and continuing to draft Josh Gordon in the late rounds and picking up Josh Gordon on waivers in week 10 and blah, blah, blah. And Josh Gordon never made it back to where Josh Gordon and Martavis Bryant in Pittsburgh. Yep. So, these
Antonio Brown too.
Antonio Brown, these things have a way of kind of working themselves out one way or another. And I hope for everyone's sake that Deshaun doesn't do anything offensive or stupid again, but related to cards, I think Brissett right now is a good buy.
Yeah, I like it. I might go buy one of these national treasures, especially if it is $250. Like,
yeah, exactly. Like,
this was $250 out of 4. Come on.
You know what that is? That's like a bet. That's a bet on the odds on the Detroit Pistons winning the championship. Like, it's not going to happen, but if it does, you could turn $100 into $50,000.
Dude, imagine if you imagine the scenario: you buy this out of 4 RPA for $215, and they make the playoffs, and Jacoby Brissett's been the quarterback all year long.
Weirder things happened.
The weirder, definitely things we didn't think. Where did we think Joe Burrow was going to be last offseason? We did not think he was going to be a Super Bowl quarterback. That's who we thought that's definitely not who we thought he was.
Yeah.
We thought he was good. We didn't think he was going to be in the Super Bowl.
100%. 100%. All right, so let's do some live chat Q&A. I'm going to lead things off. And actually, before I do, Adrian McElderly, welcome to the show. 0-game suspension for Deshaun Watson, in my opinion. That's cool. So, wondering if anyone wants to throw into the live chat now. It is Q&A time, and if you